and we should all see the message in a second.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So welcome everyone. This is the closing panel of our Ephemera conference after 2 days, nearly 2 days, I would say, after listening to many inspiring discussions and getting also lots of inspiration for doing more activist work. We came to the end, unfortunately, but we have also a very nice, interesting closing session, and our focus this time will be on education through different channels. And we have two speakers, or let's say one nice team of speakers, and another team, I would say, will be here represented. So first, we have from Brazil, they join us from Sao Paulo, Fernanda, Amanda, Isabella, Ricardo, Gabriela, and Beatriz, and I hope I didn't miss anyone, which is a fantastic team of students and also teachers who are offering a different pedagogy. And today they will share their. Um, there's a bit echo. But yeah, so yeah, they will share an outcome of their kind of experimental, let's say, critical pedagogy, and then after that we will have Patricia Zanoni, who is going to present the attempt for, or at last achievement of, a new master's program that will be offered in Utrecht University School of Governance, our School of Governance. With this, I do not want to take much of the time, and I would like to leave the scene to the team. And yes, Fernanda and the team, scene is yours.
Great, thank you. Hello, everyone. Greetings from São Paulo. We hope you are all safe. It's a great pleasure to be here, and we are very grateful for the conference organizers for inviting us to the final panel. Thank you. We are a big group of authors from Brazil, and some of us are going to present, while some are here to give emotional support and set the prayers to the technology goddess to help us with that. So our piece is based on the narrative of an education experience of a course called Integrated Education for Sustainability, which in Portuguese we call FIS, and it's how we are calling it from now on. So FIS has been offered since 2010 to undergraduate programs of business and public administration, economy, law, and international relations of Getúlio Vargas Foundation in Brazil. The theoretical and practical approaches that underpin FIS are transdisciplinarity from Edgar Morin and Basarab Nicolescu, Theory U from Otto Scharmer, and transformative learning from Jack Mezirow, among others, authors and practitioners. So each semester, a new group of students receive a collective challenge that they have to work on and to present a solution by the end of the course. 3 of us here are facilitators of FIS, so we'll be using the first person to refer to our own experience of being an activist facilitator at FIS. And before starting, we invite you all to watch a piece of the web series that was produced by a group of our students, represented here by Beatriz, that she's one of our co-authors. The group attended FIS during the first semester of 2020, and the classes started 1 month before the pandemic arrived in Brazil. So it's the experience of the students and our own experience as FIS facilitator that we are narrating in the paper, in the mini doc, and during this presentation. So let's see it.
comentário, ser ativista, acaba sendo o principal jeito de escoar esse tipo de vazão, assim, de querer fazer alguma coisa, de querer ter um impacto.
30 ativistas do grupo Greenpeace foram presos em Brasília.
Essa paixão por esse encontro, que é um encontro entre as paisagens e a cultura.
Nós devemos andar aqui na Terra pisando suavemente.
O que a humanidade podia ter feito diferente enquanto ainda havia tempo?
This is a small piece of a 6-episode web series called Echoes of the Future, produced by the students in 2020. And it's a web series about courage. You can watch the whole series at the link that we are putting in the chat. And in fact, it all began at the end of 2019, when we are planning the classes for next semester. And at that time, there was a huge fires in the Brazilian Amazon forestry, which gained international media attention. NGOs and indigenous people were being accused by the federal government of provoking the fires. And it was already Bolsonaro's mandate. There were many other accusations, and the volume of fake news disseminated about the role of social environmental NGOs in Brazil was huge. So having this feeling of injustice and the need to rescue the importance of the social environmentalist movements in Brazil, that we decided to propose a challenge for the students regarding this issue. And now we realize that this was already an activist attitude of ourselves as teachers.
So regarding our methodological or an anti-methodological approach, we are inspired by the ideas of Barbara Krzyzaniawska and Clifford Geertz, as they understand that the writing in social sciences is always a narrative or a fictional writing. For them, there's no difference between the fictional and empirical writing in social science. For sure, we also understand that to take a narrative approach is also an ethical and political attitude that requires responsibility and reflexivity over our roles, perspectives, decisions, and decisions during the process of the study and the writing and the video making. Therefore, we try to present clearly our identities and individual trajectories throughout these narratives. We must also say that we choose to go further with the traditional paper and conference presentation, and we added the mini-doc as another output of the narrative for 2 reasons. First, the mini-doc, despite it being edited by Isabella and Gabriela, gives to the readers and spectators the opportunity to virtually get in touch with the facilitators, the students, and the course. The second reason is related to our activist ambition to make this experience knowledgeable even out of the academia. So now we'd like to invite you to watch a piece of the mini-doc that you can also watch the whole version in the link we are going to put in the chat, and you can find in our working paper publishing in Google Drive of the conference.
Então, acho que sempre que eu reflito sobre qual que é o papel das escolas de negócio, eu reflito muito sobre esse processo do FIS, assim. Se não for assim, se não for por meio do ativismo, não vai ser, sabe?
Tudo era embalado por um espaço de profundo amor e cuidado e um espaço realmente seguro.
Eu acredito que o FIS teve o maior papel nessa parte mais interpessoal, sabe? De me entender também como ser humano e capaz de ser ativa nesse processo da sociedade como um todo.
E revendo agora a nossa websérie, eu penso como a minha lembrança da experiência do FIS tem outros significados agora.
Quando eu vi o tema, né, do trabalho, foi assim, uma grande surpresa, porque apesar de conhecer um pouco, eu era bem fora assim, desse mundo, né, de ONGs e de sustentabilidade.
Acho que todo mundo que se inscreveu no FIS tinha, não sei se todo mundo tinha alguma proximidade com o tema sustentabilidade, mas acho que todo mundo tinha alguma vontade de ter. E aí eu estava nesse time que tinha vontade de ter. Então.
Foi bem interessante receber um desafio que estava relacionado com organizações sociais, assim. Porque eu venho de administração pública e a gente já era um tema que a gente tratava, abordava minimamente em sala de aulas. E foi muito interessante perceber que, no fim das contas, eu achei que isso não ia sair do meu estágio de conhecimento, mas saiu super, assim, sabe? Porque eu aprendi muito que a gente não fazia ideia no curso de administração pública.
Quando a gente foi conversar sobre ONGs, né? A gente tinha muito o que a mídia tinha sobre ONGs, né? Então, a gente também estava num momento ali quente de Bolsonaro, etc. Então, quando a gente via ONGs, a gente falava assim, parte da sociedade tem que as ONGs estão botando fogo na Amazônia, e a outra parte é um pouco passivo, né? Tipo, às vezes dão um dinheiro, às vezes entende, vê o que passa na televisão.
Então, para mim, foi muito valioso, assim, poder estar em contato com essas ONGs nesse momento, assim, acho que foi uma coisa que me engajou ainda mais com o tema. Hoje eu não me vejo não trabalhando com um tema na minha vida que não esteja ligado de alguma maneira à sustentabilidade, assim. Então, acho que...
So by doing these narratives, the students, the facilitators, and the authors realized that the course experience and learning was relevant for their professional lives and for their understanding and practice of activism. The contact of the students with the NGOs, workers, and activists during the course was highlighted as a turning point in their understanding over the topic. They also highlight that NGOs, activism, and environmental sustainability was a missing subject in the undergraduate curriculum. Some of them realized during the course that NGOs could be their workplace, or it was important for their career as public or corporation managers to understand how these organizations work. In fact, some of them are now working for NGOs. So, yes. So the group work is a central aspect of the course's pedagogy, and it was highlighted in several senses. First, for the students, working collectively means a space to exchange and to care for each other at the very beginning of the social isolation period due to COVID pandemic. Second, it also represents a way to experience the collective way of working in NGOs. Finally, the group work sounds as antagonism to the students' experience with other courses in the undergraduate programs that tend to privilege individual performance. Regarding the team of facilitators, they were proud of how the topics and the practice were still alive in the memories, the lives, and the reflections of the students. This kind of findings and the discussions on academic activism made the facilitators and us as authors realize that there are different and simple ways to be an activist in business schools. For example, just by being an attentive and careful teacher, or by presenting yourself as a fragile individual, despite your years of studying and teaching. Quoting a student, Maria Eduarda, they've put themselves as humans, and they have demonstrated that they are people just like us, with qualities and flaws, and they were also understanding the context that we are living in. I think that all of this allowed us to get closer to them. We also understand at this point of our study that these forms of activism are important to challenge the model of traditional management education that has been losing legitimacy, as highlighted by Peter Brill and Stark and Paul Adler, among other authors, and also to question the neoliberal educational model. At the same time, it seems fundamental to highlight the implication of facilitators as subjects in teaching process. This means that it's not possible to teach what does not pass through us as human beings, or our beliefs, our values, as pointed out by Patricia Hill Collins, Bell Hooks, Otto Scharmer, and Catherine Kauffer. In this sense, we understand that FIS is itself a form of academic and intellectual activism, as it proposes to work with topics and pedagogical approaches that challenge the status quo of management education, at least. In this sense, the course challenges the model of mass education and the performative teaching and research, as Patricia Hill Collins put it, when it comes to intellectual activism, content and process both matter. The facilitators also learned, especially due to the consequences of the pandemic, mainly the need to change to emergency remote teaching, that they could count on the students as partners in the learning teaching process. They both were interested in receiving and offering the best education possible, and they were open to collaboration with each other. The facilitators always had considered the course as a transformative and disruptive experience. Nevertheless, with the production of these narratives and the engagement in the debate on the academic and intellectual activism, they realized how the course could be considered an activist experience regarding the pedagogy, the topics, and the fact that is carried out in management and business schools. Quoting another student, Isabel, FIS encourages us a lot to engage in activism. The word activism comes from being active. And in order to be active, there has to be a space for creation, for creativity, for new ideas, and for collective care.
For sure, we must highlight that intellectual and academic activists have always existed within universities and academic environments. If we remember the involvement of academics in labor, civil rights, women's and Black people movements, for example. However, it's an unusual move in business school, as the faculties are not expected to engage in radical work, such as questioning the current economic system, or to promote critical reflection and practices concerning social, economic, and epistemic justice. At the same time, Bell Hooks, on her Teaching to Transgress, affirms that the classroom is still the space with the most radical possibilities in academia. And Patricia Hill Collins states that it's necessary to speak the truth to the power and to speak the truth to the people. And the classroom is one space for that. So we have two final invitations for you. To those here who have this noble work with capital W, is to make your crack in the neoliberal business school wall.
And the second invitation is for everyone to join us now in a brief journey into a more experiential approach, so that you can be more than spectators of this presentation. You are all invited to join in. So sit back, get comfortable, breathe, relax, and close your eyes. Let's keep them shut till the end of this experience. Take another deep breath and go back to thoughts and images that passed through your mind during the presentation. Do they remind you of your own experience as a graduate student? Go back to those days for a little while. Try to remember a classroom, colleagues, teachers. How did you feel about university life back then? What made you excited? What made you not so excited? Do you remember ever being frustrated with the ways you were taught? Or with a subject you couldn't understand? Recognize the feelings, sensations, images, and ideas that you perceive regarding that time in your life. They are expressions of how your body was affected by your learning experience then. They are expressions of the way we learn with our whole body, not only through the intellect. Now, change the position of your arms. How does it make you feel? No matter how positive or negative a set of information is, your nervous system interacts with the tone of your muscles, with your guts, with your heart, the skin, the rhythm of your breath. Now, choose any organ in your body and put your hands close to it. Breathe. How do you feel? Your body is an integrated system, and whenever new information comes in, different structures, functions, and dynamics act together to deal with the new information. Just like it happens in any other integrated system, such as the Amazon rainforest, governments, NGOs, society. As far as humans are concerned, art, music, mindfulness, games, movement, emotions, they are elements that stimulate every human body to learn better, regardless of age. At the same time, those elements challenge paradigms that neglect the complexity of integrated systems. So focus one last time on the different information going through your body, from your skin to your inner layers, to your thoughts. And slowly start to move your toes, your fingers. Breathe deeper. If you feel like it, you may stretch a bit. And slowly open your eyes. We thank you for being with us today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm still trying to get out of this well-being mode, or I don't know how to say it, but it helped a lot actually, I would say. Thank you very much for this exercise as well. It was a wonderful complementary of what you already shared with us. I think we have some time for a couple of questions. Any questions from the audience or any comments? You can raise your hand or you can use the chat function. Maybe I can have a quick question then. Did you, so Yusra, would you like to go first?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Did you encounter any kind of resistance from the students? Because this is the kind of usual tension I had with different, let's say, critical or with alternative pedagogies, that why do we bother with that? Or what's the point? Or to what extent is it related to business, etc.? So I wonder whether you may have some reflections on that.
Yes, perfect. Team, please join in. Okay, I'll start. That's an important element that FIS, our course, is an elective course, an optative course. So it's not mandatory for students. And we run a selection process for entering the course that we called a co-selection. So we launch an activity, a dynamic to students to experiment the course before joining it. So we put some elements of the course in this experience so they can choose if they are really open to that or not, because as we showed a little bit, our methodology is based on transdisciplinarity. So we use a lot of art, a lot of body movement, mindfulness, and field trips. It's very experiential. So yes, you have to be open to that. So the students that come, of course, they are already wishing for that. So, but we experience, yes, a little bit of resistance in the beginning with some students, because it's a very different pedagogy, and it's inside a business school, a very traditional business school here in Brazil. So it's very disruptive. I don't know if the team wanna comment on that also.
Yeah, I think it's nice to know that though there's this process of co-selection, we try to get a very diverse group every time, every semester. So there are people that will be more resistant than others. And what we try to do is we try to start more smoothly. For instance, an experience like the one we just had, in our rating of smoothness is very smooth. And as the semester goes along, we start getting deeper and more adventurous in what we propose. And that helps students to get in the mood and open up to everything. And also the fact that they perceive themselves together with these other students trying to make sense of this different method, that helps a lot them to open up. So it's a very vivid, it's a living process for them and for us as well.
Yeah, in addition to that, oh, sorry. Just gonna put something else in addition to what Fernanda and Ricardo already said. This co-selection process is a 2-hour activity. So as Ricardo said, we will find some resistance in some students, but I think what is different in this process is that we spend a lot of time in this group formation, right? In these activities that build themselves not only as with this knowledge about this formal content, but also as a group itself. And we spend a lot of time in more sensible and experiential activities that help us a lot fighting this resistance in some students. And we also spend a lot of time in individual relations with them. So this is why also we have a small group. Normally in other elective courses, we have like 50, 60 students. And in this one, we have 20 at the top. So it's a small group, and it's for that reason.
I'm just aware of the time. There is one hand, also one kind of question related to how did you convince the business school, and in which form, whether it was a part of a kind of corporate social responsibility discourse, or whether another kind of discourse you mobilized, let's say, to convince the school. How did the school accept that?
Okay, that's a good one. We launched the course in 2010 when FGV signed for the PRIME, the Principles for Responsible Management Education. And at that time, the undergraduate coordinator came to us, and some of us here are part of the Center for Sustainability Studies. That's a center of studies at FGV, and we are based on that. And the coordinator asked us to think of a course that could respond to the principles and so on. So we went we did a benchmark at that time of what existed in the world in terms of disruptive disciplines and methodologies. And we created our own methodology of fees. So it's not that we told how exactly it was going to be. So that's now that we are studying more about activism, we see that we were activists because we did a crack on the wall. So we put all that inside the walls of the classroom of a very traditional business school without telling them exactly what we were doing. We were just doing. And in a sense, there was also, we ran for a sponsorship of companies in order to students, they didn't have to pay more for the discipline. Because it have field trips, which we believe it's important for the experience. It's important for students to get out of the classroom and be in contact with communities and other cultures and so on. So as we had the money of the companies, we were kind of allowed to do the things we want to do, you know. So, but the course is already 10 years old. We are now in the 22th group. So now all the faculty members and the board, the dean, they already know what we do. And nowadays it's a differential for students who are joining the university. The coordinators of the undergraduate programs, when they go to schools to present FGV, they present our course as a very disruptive initiative. So it has been a learning process for all of us, including the deans and the coordinators, to understand what we are trying to do. And it's not that easy. There are challenges, big institutional challenges, but I think this is a subject for another panel.
Great.
Just for you to know, there are already organizations that prefer to hire students that had a fees experience. So it's something that the business school values a lot.
Okay, perfect. I guess I agree with Fernanda that this discussion can take really long, and how to navigate through this, let's say, institutional forces. But I'm sorry that I need to stop this session right now, this presentation right now. But Birke was going to ask Christian, I guess, through other email channels or through some other channels, this conversation can go. And with this actually very related to this ongoing kind of the points, I'll leave the word to Patricia.
Hi, everybody. I'm Patricia Zanoni, also from Utrecht. And I think your presentation, team of Brazil, is completely, the best introduction ever to our program. So let me share the slides. I have no movies and no exercise. Sorry about that. Really classical PowerPoint, but I'll do my best to show you that we are on the same side. So, okay, so you can see it, right? So our program, it's a new master's program that, different from yours, actually still has to be launched. We 2 weeks ago, we received news that actually it has been approved by the board of directors of Utrecht University, and it's a master, an international master's program, which is going to be called Organizing Social Impact. So actually, I think and I'm speaking for the collective here that is behind this project, I think that the question we wanted to tackle with this new adventure, a new project, is like, how can we organize? How, as organizational scholars, what do we have to contribute to the current discussion, which is very interdisciplinary, on moving beyond capitalist institutions as we know them today? And how can we help students envision forms of organizing that lead us to more social, just, and sustainable institutions and society? So this is the overarching question behind the project. And we are speaking from a bit of a different location than most of our colleagues who are, as yourself, in a business school. We are in a school of governance, with quite some track record, and actually quite a high position in international, rankings and international visibility. Already offering quite a few master's programs, of which a few also in English, to an international student audience, and which is built around a strong narrative of creating public value. Quite classical, if you want, from our perspective, at least, a school of governance, but it has a very unique approach to students in that we work in small groups of maximum 25 students. And also a very specific characteristic is the very major place of professional skill modules, which are integrated in all our programs. Now, this project is a joint project of the people within the chair organization studies, who are a very diverse group. Some of them have been within the School of Governance for decades and are organizational scholars, anthropologists, trainers. Some come from the business school, and two of them you recognize, Yusra and Ozan, and myself, of course. We have come from very different trajectories, but actually in this new project, we have been able really to quite quickly, in my estimation, find each other and build a shared understanding of how we could move the School of Governance into something that is not yet there and that we feel is missing. And our ambition is really to teach students who already are feeling and have a certain motivation to mean something in society, how organizing is very crucial into moving society, moving existing institutions, moving organizations, and to create with them some actionable knowledge. I have here quite a few of the terms that have been shared during these 2 days. I think actionable knowledge, I heard this term before today, and to more explicitly draw on a critical tradition, even though one that stresses performativity and not only critique, and leveraging and the diversity of experiences of the students within the classroom in ways to generate something new. I spoke this morning a little bit in my reactions to previous sessions about the need to curate spaces. And Alessandro was talking about generative change. I think this is very much in line with our ambition. What is also a bit specific to our program with respect to the other programs already present at the School of Governance is the immersion in the field. And this links very well with the previous presentation. I must admit that up to now in our discussions, we haven't been as envisioning as alternative modalities, but I think we'll get there. We are in the process of starting to build the curriculum. So I think we also get inspired by what you have been doing. We also work with arts in the school, so that's certainly going to be in the project. And of course, these professional hand-on skills. And so in the end, we would like to have a theoretically informed, very self-reflective kind of student that is action-oriented, but also engaged. So briefly, these are just titles because we will be building the content of these modules actually from the fall onwards. We have 1 year to put everything together, and we range from activism and governance, so classical topics, to mobilizations, diverse economies, again with some skills courses in organizing for change, activist communication, collaboration, and of course a lot of research and field work. Now the whole program is built very much into the locale of Utrecht, and we have been building a whole network which is called Anders Utrecht, the Other Utrecht, around grassroots organizations already active in this environment, with which we would like really to build a long-term network and commitment and engagement to pull our students into the reality of everyday activism of various types, from the neighborhood activism up to the more explicitly political and cosmopolitan and even international activism. We have quite different organizations, but we are already built these stakeholders that are very crucial, we think, to really engage the students into this type of learning. Now, at the same time, we have been very excited about this project. And our environment actually also has been giving us the room to develop it. At the same time, we really struggle with this political and existential struggle with ourselves and with the basic question that we assume that you also struggle with: how far can we do alternatives within an existing institution such as higher education today? And don't we run the risk to be co-opted rather than, be political, prefigure the future? So this has really been a concern for us, one on which we very often debate among ourselves and reflect. And this bumpy way up to now, and I'm sure there will be more bumps, but still we should actually also celebrate the success. We have been able to convince the board of directors of a huge, very well-established university. So this should be also acknowledged. Still, we also have doubts, and we often reflect on these bumps. And for example, along the way, we have been realizing how what we do and how we do it in the process of building the program and getting all the stakeholders to support us and to give us the permission actually to go forward, are reconstituted within the system in terms of a certain logic, which is not necessarily the logic we start from, starting from the branding of the program with the name, the marketing, how you should put it in the student market, and also having a lot to do with the name, building a business case for diversity in order to justify the language in which the master will be taught, which is English, looking for evidence that our students will be employable, of course, you will recognize that one, and of course the perhaps the most problematic aspect of all, which is the one we have discussed the least because it's actually not negotiable, is the aspect of the fees that come together with participation in such a program. To give you just an anecdotal evidence, we started with this name of activist organizing for societal transformation, arguably quite a heavy name, but I mean, we thought it reflected all our political engagement and the mega ambition behind it, right? And we end up with organizing social impact, which is a very fine name, of course, but the signifier of activist has been dropped after multiple discussion at all levels, and also warnings that putting the term activist into any title of a program would cause a reputational liability and political danger, basically, to not only to the program, but also to the school and the university as a whole. And reframing societal transformation in terms of social impact in order to hail students and to kind of use a term that aligns a bit more with the individual perspective rather than a systemic macro perspective, arguably. I am originally a diversity scholar, so I used my best skills to sell the program and the diversity as an enormous business asset of this program. Of course, I believe that diversity is important, and you yourself mentioned that you try to get a diverse group of students, and we are going to do the same. But there I brought up all my diversity researchers skills to build the arguments that, you know, in a high trust environment, diverse groups will bring much more creative solution to complex problems and grand challenges. And of course, self-reflection and you know, becoming aware of the location of oneself in the production of knowledge, which are all very reasonable and to a certain extent important points, but perhaps not the way we would probably sell the programs to another audience. So I think I'm going to stop here to let sufficient space for discussion. I hope I could give you enough information to understand a little bit what this project is about. And I don't know if Ozan or Yusra, who are both closely involved, want to add anything. Thank you.
Thanks, Patricia. Yusra, would you like to add something?
Yeah, not so much. I think Patricia presented it very well, but maybe reflecting or just saying something about the first intervention and how it gives us, or at least it gave me some food for thought or some ideas and inspiration, and specifically thinking about this, about how to balance or align between, you know, the content that you want to that you're teaching and the how and the process. And one of the things that really that struck with me is the references students, I think, essentially made in their reflections that you shared with us to care, to the notion of care, and how they also, or some of them, framed it as collective care. Within a business school, this is like, I think, quite important, and also very disruptive, or has a lot of potential. So thank you a lot. I mean, we're not yet there, but you're surely presented us with a lot of also, you know, motivation and to pursue, to see how this also works and resonates with students.
Maybe I can also just add, after listening to this presentation, then I will invite further conversation from the audience, of course. But what I see the commonalities in terms of that the need for kind of navigating through these power relations in the institutions we are part of, that it is not black or white. It's not that, of course, rosy, I would say, but depending on, of course, the context, the national context, institutional context, there might be some spaces where we can do our things as how we want to do, in a way. But sometimes, of course, this would mean compromising from, for instance, we were so excited about the title, and then, of course, we didn't know about the Netherlands context. I'm here for around 2 years now, and we had no idea that the activist as the term or the concept has quite negative connotations. For instance, in different contexts, in different countries, this may be more welcoming, or this may be perceived in a different way. So there are all these kind of bumps and stuff. But I think university still has the space, at least, to do some alternative things, despite these challenges, and also, of course, with trying to overcoming the barriers. And I find very much value in coming together in these kind of events, or in this kind of environment. Actually, we do not discuss much about the pedagogies. We do not discuss much about how we do this kind of stuff. So I think this is also really important, that we share these kind of practices and knowledges, and to know, not only write about it, but also to have this kind of exchange of ideas, how we can navigate through these power relations. And with this, I also want to hear what the audience would like to add, or would there be any other questions for both of the presenters?
You were so good.
I like this awkward silence in these virtual meetings.
I'm Italian. I cannot stand the silence. I need to fill it in.
Any comments? Any questions? Yes, but
I would like to tell you something, because I'm probably the oldest here, and I feel older and older, so I'm gonna share. When I was in the beginning of my career, I didn't see it like that. I was brought up to do research, right? Research, very critical research, but students or teaching was a secondary thing. And be aware that at some point, if you're doing well, it will strike you that the teaching is really important if you aren't convinced yet. So this is my message, very political. The teaching is politics.
Definitely, yeah.
I'd like to say something about what Yusra just said. That I don't think we mentioned it in our presentation, but FIS is structured in 2 axes, if I may say so. So one of them we call the reference project, which is a practical challenge. So the students will deal with a specific subject, and it's a real life challenge they will have to deal with and present a solution, which would be a real life solution. And the other X would be the self project, which is the dimension of the course that deals with self-knowledge and relationships. And these two axes, they are entangled. So they mutually affect each other. And it's from day one to the last day of the course, we try to mix everything so that students understand that a business challenge is always a human challenge. And that's something very important for our methodology.
Thanks, Ricardo. Aslı, would you like to talk about this? It is a pretty lengthy question, and I think it's important that we can talk about it.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Okay, I count on my technique. So thank you very much. So I've been following the last 2 days from Istanbul as far as I can do, interrupted by some classes. I'm really delighted to hear so concrete cases, and I'm inspired in what I'm trying to do here with within some collectives, within the university and labor and environmental groups. So my question goes to both of you. I can't imagine, living in a corporatistic state, not even integrating courses like this into critical cultural studies department. So it has to go in an uninstitutionalized way within classes and so on and so forth, and within organizations outside universities, which are most of the time not recognized even in concrete cases. So I deal a lot with corporate crimes and possible class action lawsuits. And going back to the question about cooptation or prefiguration, we're all within this dialectics, within this tension. We deal with actors, we deal with concrete partners, but we don't want to be used as experts or people from university to say, yes, you're doing fine. And so can you really, by way of, for example, historical case studies, so I can't imagine, can you talk about corporate crimes? We can name it here, I think, in terms of environmental injustice, outsourcing to the third world, corrupt relationships with autocratic regimes, and certainly occupational health and safety, combined with those environmental injustices. So, and also the legal issue of the kind of international penal law dealing with corporate crimes. So, well, do those games or artistic intermediation serve to this as well? So can you integrate them as cases? So we have so many of them. That's my question. Thank you very much. It was a beautifully inspiring 2 days. So one of the few times where I say, thanks God, I can participate thanks to pandemic. And I thank you for the journal I've been following. I just discovered it by chance, and I've been following since the first issue. I have my favorite issues in them. Thanks for this. It's really great work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aslı. By the way, Aslı is I can say, I guess, well-known kind of scholar in Turkish occupational and health, and also other justice-related issues. I know her work, and I really like her work. Just want to say that as well. I'm really pleased that she's also here. So, in response to her questions, who would like to begin?
Go on, Patricia. We talked too much already, no?
No, go ahead. We still need to start. So you're the experts. For us, it's just in the imagination right now.
Okay, the team helped me here. Okay, we. In our experience, what we try to do in the classroom is having the excuse of being educators. We try to put the students in face with all the voices. So if we're, for instance, this web series of NGOs, Of course, there was a position of the team that launched the challenge, our own point of view of the question. But what we're trying to do when we design the course is to open the space so that students can make their own reflections, and they can elaborate the solution by hearing all the voices. So if we had, for instance, a case of corporate litigation or a corporate scandal, we bring to the classroom, and if we can, we bring the company itself to talk about it, and then we bring the other side, as we bring the NGOs, the activists. Sometimes we can put them together in the classroom. It's not an easy task, but we try to. And what we want to students is to get in their own conclusions, and we try not to drive them to the conclusions that we have, but at the same time, we as facilitator, we position ourselves. So we try to be in a horizontal relationship, that we bring our own experience and our values and what we think, but we bring the other voices so that we can talk about it. And in fact, I think someone just...
Yes.
Yeah.
I will. Sorry. Franca, can you hear us?
No, Franca.
Franca.
Franca's...
Probably I can't get control on it. Sorry. Franca, can you close the sharing button, please? I usually get control over it.
I don't know if she's hearing it. Well, let's continue, right?
Yeah, please go ahead, Fernanda.
It's a scream that it's okay to be shared, right? So I think it's it. We try to hear all the voices and bring the conflict to the classroom and bring the problems. And sometimes we deal with very complex challenges, and so that's it. When we take the students to the field trip, for instance, to forest regions, when we are going to talk with traditional people, we're always we also take the students to the companies that sometimes are devastating the territory, and they have conflict with the traditional people, to hear their side and try the students to reach their conclusions. I don't know if the team wanna add something.
I think one only aspect that is important is that as teachers and facilitators, we are also learners. We are learning with them. So not all subjects are things that we have studied before in our lives, in our academic lives or researches. So that helps us to have an open mind and understand the process that students are going through, because we are all also going through that same learning process with a different repertoire, but we are going along together with them, and that's very important.
We had in last year. I'm so messed up with the COVID, and I don't know which month we are, which year. So it seems that it has been decades that we are here. And but last year we had a challenge for the students that they had to promote. They have to build an online game about consumption culture. And it was a semester that we talk a lot about the impacts, the negative impacts, externalities that we have by consuming. And we talk about a lot about companies and what are companies doing? Are they greenwashing, or they are really doing something? What can we consume? What we cannot? And should we all turn to vegan? Should we? So this kind of dilemmas that we bring to the classroom, that they don't have answers. So as Ricardo was saying, as each semester we change the challenge, we are also learning all the time, and it's great. It's what Patricia just said, that she started as a researcher. For us, our experience of being teachers in this kind of course, we are being researchers with them. So it's wonderful. I'm sorry I talked too much because I got so excited with the course. And
Thanks, Fernanda and Ricardo. Patricia, would you like to add anything else after this? Okay. I'm also aware of the time. We are a bit extended from the planned time. Then I just hope that this conversation will go through other channels, and we hope that we can also stay in touch. And we all have our emails. We know, I guess, who is where. With this, I would like to finish the conference, this panel, and also the conference. So I, first of all, would like to thank Yusra and my co-organizers for really being on top of things and kind of bringing this conference together. And also then, of course, I would like to thank to Ephemera Collective, who was always supporting us and who were very keen to have this conference as a collective. And then, of course, I would like to thank everyone who contributed to this conference through different ways, either by asking questions, by listening to, or just by being with us. So that perhaps those who need to leave, they can leave. Those who want to stay perhaps for 5 or 10 minutes in order to reflect on the conference, or maybe say something else or other things. I think Yusra and I can stay, and maybe some other collective members, or maybe those who would like to stay further. Maybe we can have another 5-10 minutes for those who want to reflect on the conference. But those who need to leave, please free to leave. And we really thank you for your participation, attendance, and being part of this Ephemera event. Particular thanks go to the also closing panel.
Thank you. Thank you, the panelists and participants and everyone that joined. I want to add just a sentence also about, we'll share, you'll receive from us a follow-up email once we figure out how we will share the recordings and news or information for the special issue that will hopefully come out of this. Thank you again. I very much enjoyed it, although also tiring to be in front of a computer, like we're all. But thank you for sharing and especially closing with such amazing colleagues. We'll definitely keep in touch and hopefully have many more opportunities to catch up and reconnect, find ways to reconnect, and maybe one day meet in life, in real life.
Fingers crossed. All right. Good evening, everyone, or good afternoon, wherever you are. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.